Everybody doing all right? We're in the, I can't remember what week we're in with all this stuff. Hitting a little closer to home for some of us. I had a scare the other night. Around, it was Tuesday evening, right after dinner, we had did some takeout from Salvatore's, and then all of a sudden I started getting really lightheaded and couldn't get warm, got chills, took a long hot shower, and just got really shaky. It took a temperature and it was 100, and took it a half an hour later, it was 102. And I was like, oh Jesus, here I come. But I think it was just food poisoning, because the next morning it was broke and gone. But I didn't eat the rest of the whole next day because my stomach was off. So I think I've heard a couple people saying takeout has gotten them kind of sideways a little bit sometimes. So be careful where you order. We usually like Salvatore's, so I'll stick with their pizza. But hopefully everybody else is doing safe. Thrilled that you guys are on here tonight, and want to say hi to all of our Facebook people. If you're on and joining us, grateful that you're on. We got a real fun night tonight with Pastor Josh Finley, a real good friend of mine, previous neighbor, previous baseball player with me. We go way back. Josh was a youth leader with me back in the day in the late 90s, I believe it was, at EGC. Him and Anna said they just wanted to come and do some praying before the service and help out in any way. And then I turned it over to him, or Pastor Mike asked me, who do you recommend to take your spot when you go over to EF? And I said, Josh and Anna. And so they took that and ran with it, changed everything I was doing for the better. I don't know how he did it, but he got rid of teen church, which I was trying to do for years. And I remember you emailed me, said, it happened. It was like a month into it. It's like, how'd you do that? But yeah, and then Josh was the lead pastor there at EGC, and now he's in Maryland, and just really love him and his family. Sad to see them out of the neighborhood, but we still connect quite often. But I'm thrilled.
Hey, big man.
To have him here tonight. Joe Jansen's on, our USM director, and we'll just want to see how everybody's doing. Josh, start off with you. Just how are you doing? How's the family? Saw some Mother Day's pics and stuff like that. How are you guys doing? Is Jesse in the minors or majors yet?
Yeah, everybody's healthy. Our family's doing great. I think the boys are getting a little stir crazy. Depending, even if you're introverted by now, people are crawling the walls in some ways, but
yes,
we're doing good. But like you said, there's some scares coming closer to home with relatives, getting tested and coming up positive and stuff like that. But, all in all, compared to what other people are walking through, we can't even say anything. This is
right.
And I said to the boys, if we still lived in upstate New York, this would be like a glorified snow day for the first several days or a couple weeks. And I think we watched every movie you could watch where there were viruses and pandemics, and it was like The Maze Runner, and then whatever. We watched them all. I Am Legend. It was like every single virus movie out there.
Yeah.
And then the novelty started to wear off, and it started getting real pretty quickly. But we're hanging in there.
Yeah, it's getting to the place where our kids are fighting over spaces on the couch. That's my spot. No, that's my spot. And we literally have beat downs on who gets that spot. So we're trying to be creative. And Katie said, okay, everybody just bring their beds down. They did a sleepover on the living room floor last night because it was, I didn't know the corner of the couch was so popular. But that's how it's getting a little stir crazy with all that. But glad they're doing well out there. So, Josh, let us know what's been going on. I mean, this season's been pretty crazy. Stuff going virtual, Zooms. We're crashing the Zoom site. People are hacking it. I mean, it's just a whole new world out there. We're all trying to figure out some different things. So, one of the questions, a crazy question here is, what would you do differently? So if you could go back to the start of this pandemic, and if there is anything that you would.
Yeah, man. So none of us really could see this fully coming. I remember when, you know, everyone's into Enneagram now. What's your Enneagram number? Well, one of my friends is an 8, the challenger, and really kind of their superpower is the power of the big decision, right? And he said to me, he goes, I think we're going to have to cancel church this weekend and not let anybody get around each other. And I'm like, you're crazy. You think it's going to get that far? And that was the first Sunday in March that we had to shut everything down.
Wow.
And, you know, it was like no matter how established your organization was, everyone became a startup overnight. Everybody. Big churches, small churches, huge corporations, everybody became a startup overnight. I saw a statistic today that said that Zoom went from 10 million customers to 200 million customers. So how's that for, you know, sometimes you get too much growth and it puts you out of business. So I don't think any of us could have fully prepared for it, but if I could go back to the beginning, without a question, I think one of the things that I would do differently, I think what I did wrong, probably for the first 3 weeks, is I just didn't adapt to the flexibility needed. I tried to just work harder to maintain the previous reality. It was like, you know, we had to create so many new systems just to do the same things. Church was so different, everything, communication. And so we were like a lot of people, I had to fight off resentment because people were like, I'm so bored. I'm at home. I got nothing to do. I've been watching every Netflix in the queue. And I'm thinking, we're working harder than ever because we don't know what the heck we're doing. Right. We've never had a pandemic before. And so I feel like the first 3 weeks, I didn't adjust and pivot quick enough. I worked harder. And so I would go back because I just wasn't present. You know what I mean? I just don't think I was present for the people that needed it the most. I was just working too hard. You know, Joe mentioned moving his video chat room out of his bedroom and into other space. I think the divide between home and work was really tough for the first few weeks.
Yeah.
So I just, I would have slowed down and not tried to keep up because it just wasn't realistic. I think when crisis hits, most of us ask the question, what do I need to do? But I think and you have to answer that question, but I think the better question, the deeper question is, who do I need to become? Like I have to change in this season. I can't just do what worked before. And I just kept asking the question, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And I just, you know, I would go back and say, it's not realistic. You just, and first of all, you're really not that important. Get over yourself. You can't work day and night to try to fix and keep things going. You know, and so I think I took the first 3 weeks at a blinding pace that probably wasn't real good. Took me a while to slow down.
Yeah, I remember Joe said early on that he was talking to some pastors and like the ones in New York City were getting bombarded with this. And then he talked to another pastor. He's like, oh, I feel like I'm on sabbatical. It's just a crazy perspective on different things out there. But yeah, for us, it took us a couple of weeks to adjust. And with homeschooling and everything like that, it's just, it was a big challenge. And so it was encouraging to hear some of your things on how not to do stuff. And as we look back, Anthony, good to see you. I'm glad you found the link. Good to have you on board with us. Hey, if you guys want to get ready, we're going to break here in a little bit and have some Q&A. And Josh is just a storehouse of information. Even if you just want to get a one-liner from you, he can pull those out of his hat like there's no tomorrow. But just come up with any questions or thoughts that you might be, you know, just concerned with during the season, and we'll fire them away at Josh here in a few minutes. But Josh,
Mark, you're looking pretty good in that. You're looking pretty good in that light. Who's your makeup artist? You're doing some work there. Katie is doctoring you up for these calls.
Yeah, she's got a honey-do list with these projects. She wants a garden. She wants all this stuff. And I just have to get outside or else I'm going to minister to my kids with the fivefold ministry. So it's been good to get out. I was outside a little bit today, so maybe that's what it is. Joe bought me a 9-inch ring light too, so that might have something to do with it.
There you go.
You got the tan setting. You could put it on.
Heard you were getting a jacuzzi.
Yeah, did you see that too? I heard that. I heard about that. My wife says, my husband's building me a patio for the future hot tub. And I said, future hot tub? How many stimulus checks you think we're going to get? But Josh, tell me something. What's God been speaking to you during this season? Anything personal?
Yeah. I think like everybody else, you kind of in your mind have these like mile markers on the calendar thinking things will get better by this date. And when it first started happening, we thought, maybe 6-7 weeks by Easter, things would, come back to normal, whatever that's going to look like. Easter came and went, Mother's Day came and went. We thought surely by Father's Day, maybe. And as the schedules kept getting unsettled and timelines like flipped upside down, one morning I opened my Bible reading plan in YouVersion and I was in Ezekiel chapter 3, according to the plan. And I thought, honestly, my thought was, great, I'm in Ezekiel. Like the beginning of Ezekiel is wheels and crazy visions and like, God, give me something. And what's crazy is it's amazing how God can speak to you in the most random places. In Ezekiel 3, he says to him, Ezekiel, come down into the valley and I'll speak to you. And man, that just grabbed me because I thought, this is a valley. I mean, no matter what, this is a valley. And I think sometimes we avoid the valley so much because we want to be on the mountaintop, but really God said to Ezekiel, come to the valley and you'll hear my voice clearly. And he actually said, I'm going to fill you with my spirit in the valley. I'm like most people where it's like, we just want to go from mountaintop to mountaintop. And I've heard that, our strategy, mankind's strategy is to build bridges, but God's strategy to get us from mountaintop to mountaintop, his strategy is the valley. You got to go through the valley. And God said to Ezekiel, come into the valley, you'll hear my voice. And then he goes on in Ezekiel 3 and says, and then I want you to go into your home and shut yourself in. Give you some things to say. And I thought, man, if that is not a quarantine chapter, I don't know what is. And so it just spoke to me that, we're going through so much disruption, but my prayer was basically after I got through the first 3 weeks frantically trying to help build systems to still keep things afloat. I just said, God, I don't want to look back on 2020 in everything to be defined by a virus. I want to be refined by the voice of God. I need to hear something from you, even if it feels like I'm in a valley. And to me personally, that song from Maverick City, their album, Volume 2, Refiner, has been like, just like my mantra during this season. And I feel like because God's been speaking to most people on the planet about pace and priorities, there's just a refining that's going on. And that's really been my prayer rather than being defined by a virus. I want the refining of God's voice. I need to hear something from him. And I personally believe, even though the experience is different for everyone, I think there's a little bit of a global Sabbath happening, and there is some rest, there is some replenishment going on. And I think out of it, on the other side of this, we are going to see a global harvest. And, God didn't cause this, but he's certainly going to use it. Exactly. And I think maybe we need to check our pace and check our priorities and really get the rest we need, because on the other side of this, it could be a ridiculous harvest season that we need to be ready for. And that's just something that I feel like God's put into my spirit during this time.
Yeah, I feel like he's setting us up. Just like the batter in the batter box, you kind of look for that one pitch and you get set up for it. And then when it comes, you just unleash on it. So I really, it's a good time to take a season to hear from the Lord and let the Spirit speak to us. And just, I'm excited to see what happens on the other end of this. Josh, there's a question from a Facebook listener on that kind of a side note there, as how do we plan for the future? How, in exclamation points, do we wait till January 2021 or, that's what they're asking. So.
Well, I think one of the best strategies is again, not asking the question, what do I need to do, but who do I need to become? I have to emerge out of this season different. I have to get what God wants me to get in this, it's like in NASCAR when the car goes off and the pit crew's working on. I think God's working on us. I think he's showing us some things. And I think honestly, sometimes we're so afraid to slow down because we're afraid what we're going to hear. And sometimes we're afraid for our soul to catch up with us. Right. And I know that's the case for me. There was such a pace before this. And then when your whole calendar gets flipped upside down and everything is canceled, it's like a smelling salt put in front of you. You're like, okay, wow. All right. So the how I think we just have to keep growing personally, and then we're going to be prepared. My conviction has always been, and I say this to myself whenever I'm fearful of the future, the future will always be my friend because God is my father. He's waiting for me in the future. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I can't predict the future, but I know that I'm probably not going to be ready for it if I don't grow. But if I grow and focus more on who I need to become rather than this list of things I need to do, I'm probably going to be more prepared to adapt and to make better decisions and be healthier and have a fresher perspective.
That's awesome.
And then again, ask smarter people. Like Joe and I have been talking about, there's so many people right now that are collaborating. Everybody's stuck at home. So people that you couldn't get before to come to your conference, people you couldn't get before to do things, they're at their house.
Right.
I mean, look at all these celebrities that are doing birthday shout outs for people, all over the place because spouses are calling, hey, I saw Boston Rob today, gave a birthday shout out to a friend of mine. And so there's a lot of people that are available that wouldn't normally be available. And I've gotten on a few calls that have just helped change my thinking about things. And I thought, man, I would have never thought about it that way. I'm so glad that I got access to, this conversation to help me think differently.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more available to us. I know Evan Thorpe just got one of the guys there, one of our favorite guys on Survivor, to do a happy Mother's Day to Taryn because that's her favorite character.
I saw that.
And he did it. And so there's some stuff. Who would you recommend? Or is there people out there that you would throw out for this group here to just kind of try to get in touch with?
I love what EF's doing. I love these huddles, and I love, I would say jump into some different streams and jump into different huddles to hear what different perspectives are happening. Like today I listened to a call from Ed and Lisa Young out at C3 Church. They opened up in Texas the first week that churches were open in Texas. And they did a recap to say, basically, here was the good, bad, and the ugly of what we learned the first weekend of reopening. And again, it was just so helpful, different context. But I never would have had access, because I don't go to C3. But I just love that vulnerability, and I love the sharing. People are collaborating like crazy right now because everyone feels at a loss for what to do next.
Is it? But Josh, you were just about to get into some ideas on how to better serve students and kids during this time, and so we'll go ahead and jump back into that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people are already saying some good things, Mark, about that, but some ideas that we're looking at is as soon as our spaces are clean and safe for people to come in, we're looking at hosting some proms for area schools.
Oh, wow.
Got canceled because, if it's your senior prom and you never got to have one, we're thinking, hey, even if it's August, let's host some proms and let's open up our spaces and let the kids and graduates have some good experiences. I think youth and children's leaders right now have a unique opportunity because in a sense, their primary customer really isn't the student or the child, it's the parent. It's the one who really is the ultimate authority in the life of the kid. And so if you can serve parents well right now in practical ways, I know the school year is just about over, but just sending them tips on how to homeschool your kids without killing them, and just really becoming an ally with parents right now to serve kids because they are at their wit's end. And there's just some things there, and just like one of the things I was able to do, I was talking to a counselor, and she said basically children right now are experiencing tremendous grief and loss because, we were talking about Jesse playing baseball. Well, for a couple of years now, he's been looking forward to going to Cooperstown to play at the Baseball Hall of Fame in a tournament.
Right.
And that got canceled. Right. So when I see him flip out on his brother or react short with me, it's really not the situation in the moment. It's the other things that's coming out sideways. The anxiety and the anger, it's coming out in a different way. And he doesn't even know really why he's reacting the way he is. And so I think anything student and children leaders can do to equip parents with resources, get someone like a Dr. Fred Antonelli, different people on for a 20-minute call to say, hey, here are some things you can do to be present with your kids, to not overreact because everybody's stressed, but your kids are dealing with anxiety and they just don't even know it. And, the loss, the grief of a graduation canceled, so my sister was getting married and then that got messed up, all these different, it's just so much. we can picture for the Olympic athletes, right? You practice, you prepare your whole life, and then they move the finish line on you. That's devastating for people. But if you're a child, you don't know how to handle that level of grief and loss. And sometimes as parents, because it's a miniature issue, we don't realize how weighty it is for a 9-year-old, for a 12-year-old, for a 15-year-old. So I think just being aware of that. So the prom thing is big. Honestly, right now with people having so much time on their hands and so much anxiety and screen time, any kind of resources you can give families to help their homes deal with internet filters and pornography. Some of the statistics I've seen are just out of the roof as far as pornographic use, just because people are filling their time. They're trying to numb themselves because they don't know what to do, and someone taught me that pain seeks pleasure. And so some people are seeking pleasure in wrong ways because they're dealing with pain they just don't know how to deal with. And so I think it's a great time for youth leaders and children's workers to be able to become allies with parents and be reminded that really the parent is the primary customer, not even the student or the child. And then just like some fun practical stuff. One of the things we're doing as a family is that Jackbox.tv.
Yeah, we started that too.
Yeah, it's so fun. I mean, you play these trivia games on your phone and it pops up on the TV, and you can do it as a youth group. You could do it as a small group. You could do it with your, young adult teams are doing it, from their homes. And it's a fun way to be able to do games. I think some other things that people are doing is just, instead of sending text messages to people, do a video text. Let them see your face. Send them a video message. Takes you 30 seconds, 60 seconds. But it just means so much to see someone's face as opposed to just a Slack message or a text or an email.
Right.
Drive-by birthdays, right? Just pulling up at the end of someone's driveway, wishing them a happy birthday, or sending packages in the mail. It's amazing. I sent a handwritten card to someone and they got all emotional. It's just because of the heightened emotions of what we're going through. Any little gesture you make gets exponentially magnified. Right. And so I think if you could take it a little further and make it personal, don't just send the text message, send a video message. It takes you really not much longer. And I think those little things go a long way. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think it has to be difficult. I think it just has to be meaningful, and even the little things just really go a real long way. I know Katie started just kind of this care fairy, and they got a bunch of people to sign up for it, and they go and just drop off goodies that they know that this person likes, and then they just pay it forward type thing. And so there's that group has exploded just because it's personal and it's genuine and it's fun, and plus it gets them out of the house. You gotta love the creativity that people are doing right now. Everyone's got their Zoom fatigue and all that, but youth groups doing scavenger hunts. Okay, right now, go search your house for this, and then they have to run and go get it, and then they come back. And so there's just cool ways to keep youth groups engaged. They just want to see each other. Yep. I mean, who are we kidding? People don't even tune into online church to watch the message. They tune in to chat with each other and to see each other, for the most part. And so. Yeah, I bragged on this last time, but Anthony, he took a couple weeks and just went around to his youth group and just videotaped it. Having them come out in the front yard and just do a greeting and stuff. And I never saw so many young people with smiles on their face in one video. It just was really cool. But that is some of the creative things that are out there. So thanks for that, Josh. Thanks for being flexible with the events of the evening. I just really appreciate it. We want to open it up for some questions. The group is small enough tonight that we could, probably get to most of us. I know we're kind of running out on time there. So as you're ramping up for some of those things you might want to ask Josh, Debbie, go ahead and just kind of share a couple of things that we got coming up the next couple of weeks here at Elim Fellowship.
All right. So tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., Carol Ball will be hosting a 15-minute prayer session through Facebook Live. And we'd love for you guys to join us and just agree with her as she lifts up different areas and struggles. So be sure to head out to our Elim Fellowship Facebook page tomorrow at 11 a.m. to watch. Also happening tomorrow, Rob Horner will be wrapping up his 2-part series on managing anxiety during uncertainty, and that's going to be at 2 p.m. This is just a really great huddle to join if you're looking for some practical or spiritual advice on how to handle stress throughout this season. Also, if you missed the first one, it's no problem at all. We'd still love to have you. And you can find the link to sign up for this huddle on our Facebook or Instagram page. And then this Tuesday at 8 p.m., some of the women from the Her Movement group are hosting a Zoom call discussion on loneliness. They'll be going over ways you can have an impact even when you're feeling far from others. So for more information on this or a link to sign up, you can follow Her Movement on Facebook or Instagram at her_MVMT. And finally, on Thursday, June 11th, we've got Adam McCain joining us for an online huddle at 8 p.m. This huddle is specifically focused on connecting and encouraging our youth and kids leaders, but anyone who would like to join is absolutely welcome. And you can sign up for this on our Facebook or Instagram page.
Awesome.
Very cool. Very cool.
Debbie. We also, Joe Jansen is going to do one on stress here the end of May. We haven't picked the date on that yet, but that'll be coming out to wrap up the month of May with that huddle. And if you guys get on YouTube and subscribe to our Elim Fellowship site there, you'll get all the huddles and webinars that we're doing, and you can listen to them at any time, edited and clean and PG'd. So go ahead and subscribe to that. You get all of our stuff there. I know that the office here has been working really hard to make sure that we're connecting and just being out there for people. I know Pastor Chris has been, he's even been traveling a little bit. So we're just grateful for everything that's going on and grateful for all of you and what you're doing. There's a question here, Josh, from Jesse Tanner. Jesse, make sure I get it right. He wants to know, how do you keep your calendar straight with all the different ways you have meetings when you're at your office or when you're working from home? How do you manage all that?
Yeah, I think it's tough because some people are talking about all the time that they have, and other people are saying I'm busier than ever. And so
Right.
I don't know. I've kind of just tried to adopt the principle of disappointing the right people. You're going to disappoint. Somebody's going to be disappointed. You just better choose to disappoint the right people.
Right.
I can't disappoint the people that matter most. And like I was saying earlier, if I could go back and even start at the beginning of this pandemic differently, I would have been more present than allowing busyness to just fill every waking moment, because the work never ends. And now that people have more time on their hands, they can communicate more and have access to each other more. And so I've just had to let messages pile up a little bit, let some text messages go till the next day. They don't have to, just because, a friend sent me a cool gift in the mail. You got good friends when they send you an Apple Watch in the mail, but I didn't even know like what the package was. I'm opening it up and my son next to me, Jesse, goes, "Dad, that's an Apple Watch 5th generation, whatever. Can I have it?" and I thought, geez, this is all I need. I need another thing buzzing on me to let me know messages are coming in. And I think, you just have to put your phone in another room sometimes. You just have to learn to disappoint the right people, because it can wait. I've just found out that I'm not that important. I can't fix it all. And I just need to be present where I'm in the moment and do the best I can, because I don't think any of us have really mastered the calendar. But I would say, obviously, have a starting point and an ending point. Here's the thing, if we right now can't figure out Sabbath and we can't figure out margin,
Right.
So here's the scary thing, right? I love the meme that Havila posted. She said, "My heart goes out to all the husbands who use the excuse, sweetie, I'll get to that when I have time." And she's like, "Brothers, I'm feeling for you." Well, here's the thing. If I can't figure it out right now, then I'm never really going to be able to figure it out.
True.
Because this is the most time probably any of us have ever had in our lifetime, right? I wasn't alive when the Spanish flu hit in 1918. And so even though it's crazy, there are also pockets. And so I just think there's kind of two sides of the spectrum. Take it easy on yourself. You've never lived through a pandemic before. We don't know what the heck we're doing. And then on the other side of the spectrum, if you're still too busy right now, when are you ever going to figure out how to do margin and be present. And so that's really been kind of the sobering thought for me, and a challenging one.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know if that helps, Jesse, but
Yeah, Jess, you have any follow up with that?
Yeah, I mean, some people are great. They send Zooms with a calendar option to add it right to your calendar, and then you don't forget those. But then the other ones, they come and you have 3 in your email, and it's like, have you mastered like getting those? Have you missed some Zooms, Josh?
I just cut and paste the link out of the email, delete the email, and put it in my calendar immediately, just because I know that I'll forget it. Or I'll use Calendly, that free app and software that people can use to sign up, where Calendly will look at when there's gaps in your calendar and they can pick. And so it's like having a virtual assistant for free. There's some great resources now that you could take advantage of. Acuity is one that you pay for, but Calendly is a free one. And man, it's awesome for setting up meetings and appointments. And again, don't be afraid to disappoint the right people. I think Jesus taught us that better than anybody. I mean, when you've got the guts to not show up for 4 days to one of your closest friends' funerals, you've got some courage.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking there on parenting and giving them some resources. I know that I was talking to some leaders, and I was asking them, what do you need to hear about now? What's an itch that we could scratch? And a lot of them are saying we need to know how to parent. We need to our own kids. So I've actually been in touch with Dr. Fred, and I know Joanne just did a resource that we sent out to everybody on parenting during the pandemic, which was very helpful. And so we're going to kind of be leading towards that in a little bit. So thank you for touching on that as well. Anybody out there got a question here? We got a few more minutes here. Anthony, Nick, Jim, anybody, Kenny? Go ahead, raise your hand, or else we'll just move on. I thought you were raising your hand there, Anthony, but it's actually just your shirt. Caught me off guard when I looked down. Oh, Josh is here. You got a wellspring there that you could just jump into there. Pastor Chris, you have any thoughts? Or you're lip syncing right now. There you go.
There you go. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
It's great to see all of you again. Yeah, Carol and I actually ran into a couple of things tonight that kind of put us behind. We went out to this place. What was it called, Carol? The chicken place, and Boston Market. Yeah, and then just to get out. And so I'm sorry for being late, but I really didn't get much of your teaching, and really I got more out of the hack right now. And and the biggest thing I think that for me, I just want to kind of add to what Josh was saying. Probably about a week or two ago, I had kind of an encounter. I shared some of this obviously with Carol, and I mentioned some to Joe. I just want to speak to this issue, and most people know me. Josh knows me fairly well too, and that is I can be a workaholic. And in fact, I'd rather say I am a workaholic now. And but as a result, that's just an ongoing fight for me, because I really enjoy my work. I love it. I'm driven by it. But I'm I'm more tired in an 8-hour day now than I've been in a long time, and so I have less margin to do the things I can normally do after an 8-hour day. I find myself coming home, so I have to bring an end to my day. That was what I was kind of leading up. I basically say, I'm done. It'll wait till tomorrow. And a lot of my work tends to, I feel like it tends to be when I'm in the office, I'm responding to the people. But then when I get home, I do my own work, if you will, the work that isn't responsive. But I'm learning not to do that. I'm learning to say it's got to be an end to my day. And come home and kind of veg and be with Carol and hang out at the house and not plan stuff. So that's just something I just want to concur. We've got to balance our lives. I don't want to burn out. And another thing I really feel like it's important is we need to give people a sense of, I think I've been saying this, and I'm going to say this again I'm probably going to do this at the annual meeting in a couple weeks as a little bit of a devotion, but let me just kind of say it here, is I've seen 3 phases that we're going through as life. In the first phase, I think I saw a bunch of people afraid, and there was fear that was dominant. And the second phase is where we're at now, and that's fatigue. I feel like, you know, we're seeing people frustrated because we've been quarantined, and there's this sense of social distance and fatigue and all that kind of stuff. Where I think we're heading at an increased level is frustration. And what I mean by that is when we start to get free, we're not going to be completely free. And so, you know, some people are going to be acting freer, and then it becomes dangerous. So you have people fighting on the streets because some are wearing masks, some are not, and there's this just tension of that, and then there's going to be this kind of frustration about eventually the wave of the negative that's been happening is going to catch up with us, you know. So the people who've been unemployed and remain unemployed are going to start. We're going to start to feel the effects of some of that, I believe. And that's going to hurt our children, our youth, when they see parents come home frustrated, stressed. How are we going to pay the bills? All this kind of stuff and all that. I think the answer to that last one is love. I think we are moving into a place where we just got to show love to people. We got to show gratitude. I was telling Carol today, I think more often than not, 90% of what I hear, even in my office, is more criticism and negativeness, and we're letting things get to us. And I'm saying, no, let's turn that around to where it's 90% gratitude, 90% appreciation, 90% of a positive atmosphere versus always finding the negative. So I think these are things that I think right now the church needs to be a light in the dark world, and especially in this last season. And then again, it could cycle again. We've heard that, but this is where I think we're at. And I think the church needs to be responsible with that frustration. So that's kind of what's on my heart. And I didn't ask a question, but that's just something I'm carrying right now, and I wanted to share it with you.
Thanks a lot, Pastor Chris, for that. You always seem to have something in your heart for us. I appreciate that. Josh, I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, but you got a book coming out here early June, right?
June 1st.
Yeah, it's called Overcome, Get Past Your Past, and what's the other? Say Goodbye to Shame and Win Over Temptation. I just purchased that because I just want to get going on reading that, and just encourage you when it comes out there. It sounds like a really good book. You have anything you want to say about that, Josh? I know you didn't ask to, but I'd like to give you a little moment here.
You know, I think, man, I think all of us carry a message. It doesn't always have to be a book, but I think we're always carrying something, and we, you know, you wrestle. I don't view myself as creative, but I realize that in your speaking and writing, you can be creative, just because I can't paint and I can't sing and I can't play an instrument. You know, I think I've come to realize that if we're made in the image of God, everyone's creative in some way. And so I've just had to embrace that. And, but the moment you try to put something out, you feel incredibly vulnerable because you want it to be perfect. And the Lord really had to work me over on a lot of just different insecurities. And really, it was Doug Coburn that said this principle. He said, publish is greater than polish. Like, basically, just send it. Just send it. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be. If it were perfect, I'd never release it, and I'd die with it in me. And so I feel like just me completing it and sending it and having a great team around me is such a win. And truth be told, you know, I always knew from a young age that I was going to write books. The closer I kept getting to my 40th birthday, I thought, man, I better do something with this stuff in me. And so, I don't know, I think one step of obedience turns into a chain reaction. And now I've got 2 or 3 other books already outlined and in the works. And, you know, God willing, I'd love to release one every 12 to 18 months and just get over myself and not try to polish it, just publish.
Now you broke the ice with the first one there, so you could just let it go from there. I'd like to, I'd have to touch base. I sent a note there to Pastor Chris, so I'll put him on the spot, but I'd like, because of the situation tonight, I'd like to buy you all a copy of this book as a gift from EF to you guys for being with us on this huddle tonight. How many would like that? Just give me a thumbs up if you would like a copy of that book. And Josh, you can, if I can get it earlier, let me know. If not, we'll wait till June to get that out. But I'd love to. Luke, can you get the?
I'll put it in the chat just for everybody here.
Okay.
I think I can.
But I'll definitely make sure if you can private message Luke your address and name, and I'll make sure that we get that out there to you. But as our gift here from the fellowship, I know you won't be disappointed with this. Josh, anybody with a last thought before I have Josh pray for us? We all good?
I guess I can ask a question if questions are still up for asking.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
Josh, so I took over the youth group at EGC 2 weeks before this whole thing happened. So I'm pretty new to this. Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any suggestions? We've been having a good time. We've been doing the Jackbox games, just bringing short devotions like 5 to 10 minutes, which turned into 15 to 20 minutes most of the time because
Awesome.
I'm a talker. But do you have any suggestions like what we can do like as new youth pastors in this time?
You know, when I was stepping into the role at EGC, I remember so distinctly the Holy Spirit saying to me, don't be who you think they need, be who you are. And the quicker you are who you are, that'll be what they need. And so I say, just, you know, I feel for people that are transitioning into roles right in the middle of all this, right? A good friend of mine, he transitioned in as a lead pastor. The next week, they had to shut the doors of the church. And I just believe God gives a special grace for situations like that. And I think you, Kenny, just being real and vulnerable like you are with the parents, letting them know, listen, I'm up for the challenge, but I know I don't fully have what it takes. I don't know what to do in this situation, but I'm available. I'm going to be praying for you. We're going to connect. I just think just being real and being consistent, you know, people are craving security in any way they can. So if you're going to do devotions and it's going to be consistent, just make it consistent. If you're going to do it, you don't have to do big things. I think just do little things consistently. And man, it builds credibility for the long haul. And right now you actually have a cool opportunity because whatever you do that's heartfelt is going to exponentially bond you to the students and to the parents because you're walking through a traumatic time with them. And you're going to be able to leverage that on the other side with tremendous trust. So don't be hard on yourself. Nobody knows how to do this perfect. Nobody's been through a pandemic before, but any little prompting you get from the Holy Spirit and creativity and utilize other people. I mean, people are so willing right now to collaborate and to help. You may even be able to pull some people in to help and they realize that they love working with students. And on the other side of this, they might join your team because it's something you ask them to do, you know, right now. So I don't know if that helps, but I'm sure you're doing a better job than you realize.
No, that really helps. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's all I've been trying to do. So I'm like, that's all I know how to do. Just be myself and be vulnerable. So thanks.
It's a good word. Thanks for that encouragement, Josh. Anybody else before we sign off for the night? Great. We'll get that information over to Luke. You can send it to him privately, and we'll get that book right out to you as soon as we can get it. Josh, you go ahead and pray for us tonight as we close out. Again, thank you for joining us. I know you are busy, but you always make room for family, so I appreciate you doing that. So
sure. Love you guys. It's great to see you even from a distance.
Yeah.
And why didn't you get a jacuzzi when I was your neighbor? That's what I'll say.
Still haven't gotten one. So.
Oh, man. I love you guys. Father, thank you. Thank you for the global family that you have created called Elim. And even in the midst of all this disruption, God, I know you are bringing us to a place of fresh devotion. And as Pastor Chris said, I pray that Lord, you taught us that our focus is our choice. And I pray that we would choose to focus on solutions. We would choose to focus on your perspective. And God, my number one prayer is that as we look back at 2020, that we would not say that our lives or our families or our ministries were defined by some virus. I pray that we would be refined by the voice of God. I pray that your Spirit would speak to us. Even if it feels like it's in a valley, you would just speak to us there, fill us with your Spirit. Thank you in advance for the creativity to serve people incredibly well, to serve the people we have, and to serve the people that are looking in on your family. Father, I just pray that we would come out of this time rested, not asking what can we do, but just saying, who do we need to become? Who are you changing us into so that we're ready for the harvest that's on the other side of this? Lord, I just speak grace, favor, and protection over the fellowship and over all those that we love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks again, Josh. Love you. Can't wait to see you in person whenever that may be.
Love you guys.
Really appreciate you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. God bless you. Our next Youth and Kids Leader Summit is June 11th with Adam McCain. Over the summer, I'm just going to go with one per month. We'll also have some of the other ones that you've been hearing about as well, but we're just going to go with one per month. We've been doing every other week. So just be ready for that. We'll have Adam McCain with us. God bless you guys.